I saw my neighbor with a chainsaw cutting into the tree that held my son's treehouse while he was still inside. I screamed his name as the trunk cracked and gave way, the treehouse collapsing with my child trapped beneath it. That moment, watching my boy's safe haven crash down around him, was the most terrifying thing I've ever lived through. And it all started with a neighbor who decided we didn't belong. When we first moved into that neighborhood, everything felt like a dream. My husband Tom, our 7-year-old son Leo, and I had found the perfect house, quiet, street, big backyard, and best of all, a huge oak tree that practically begged to become a treehouse. Leo had been talking about building one since he could talk in full sentences, and that tree sealed the deal for us. I thought it was fate. It was. On one of our first weekends there, we were out measuring the trunk, sketching ideas, watching Leo hug the bark and whisper his plans. That's when I heard it, the voice that would haunt me. You people bring your aesthetic with you wherever you go, don't you? Not hello, not welcome to the neighborhood. Just that. I turned to see her standing on her pristine lawn, tight, blonde, perm-white tennis skirt on a Tuesday, arms crossed like she was holding herself together. Ela. She wasn't just a neighbor, she was the president of the HOA. And from that very first line, I knew she had a problem with us. Tom tried to smooth things over. He's always the diplomat, but her lip curled when she looked at Leo. Then she said, "Remember, this is a covenanted community. We have standards. We don't just build shanties in the trees." And she walked off. I thought I misheard at first, but no. She meant exactly what I feared. We were the only mixed-race family on the block, and in that one sentence, she told us we weren't neighbors, we were intruders. We tried to ignore her. We checked the bylaws carefully. Fence heights, mailbox colors, what kind of grass you could plant, but not one word about tree houses. Not one. So we built it, every weekend out there as a family. Tom hammering me, documenting Leo handing us screws like it was the most important job in the world. It was joyful. Some neighbors stopped by to admire it, tell us stories of their own childhood tree houses. But Ela sat on her patio like a gargoyle, binoculars in hand, staring holes through us. When the first letter came, slipped under our door. No stamp, I wasn't even surprised. Cease construction immediately, it said, signed by the Architectural Review Committee, which turned out to be Isla and her sour-faced friend. Tom wrote back, politely pointing out there was no rule against it, attaching photos, even citing real estate websites showing treehouses added value. He thought reason would win. I knew better. This wasn't about rules, it was about control. We got summoned to an HOA meeting held in Ela's own living room, of course. She sat at the head of the table like a queen on a throne, dismissing every point Tom made. She sneered when he mentioned we'd consulted an arborist, cut him off mid-sentence, accused us of endangering her prize-winning flowers and her very foundation. The meek board members avoided her gaze, clearly terrified. When we walked home afterward, Tom admitted what I already knew. It's not about the rules, it's about her, and she's not going to stop. She didn't. That's when the harassment began in earnest. Isla, with her phone camera, pointed at us every time we stepped outside. Snap, 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 documenting Leo, climbing his ladder, me pulling weeds, Tom mowing the lawn as though we were criminals. Complaints flooded in grass too long. Recycling bins left out even a citation when a package sat on our porch for a few hours. All anonymous, all obviously her. Our sanctuary backyard turned into a stage where we were constantly watched and judged. Leo stopped inviting friends over. He'd peek out the window first to check if the mean lady was there. She was succeeding, turning our home into a prison. Then, just as suddenly, she stopped. No more photos, no more notes, no more calls to code enforcement. A week of silence. When she showed up at our door with a Pyrex dish and a syrupy smile, apologizing for any misunderstanding, Tom wanted to believe her. I didn't. That casserole felt like a Trojan horse. We didn't eat it, of course, but the gesture lulled us into lowering our guard. That was her plan all along. It was a Thursday afternoon, sunny, peaceful. Leo and his friend Sam were up in the treehouse laughing about pirates. I was in the kitchen making lemonade when I heard a low growl, then louder, angrier. Not a lawnmower, a chainsaw. I ran to the window and froze. Isla was in our yard in a hot pink tracksuit, her blonde perm perfect revving a brand new orange chainsaw into the trunk of our oak tree. My son's oak tree. I screamed. She turned, looked me dead in the eye and smirked, then pushed the blade deeper. The sound of that tree cracking will haunt me forever. Leo and Sam shrieked in terror as the whole trunk shuddered. I ran barefoot across the lawn, but I was too far. With a deafening crash, the tree gave way. The treehouse splintered wood and metal collapsing. For one awful moment, silence. Then a whimper. "Mommy." Leo's voice. Sam crawled out, scratched and crying, but alive. Leo was pinned, his arm bent at an unnatural angle, his face pale with shock. "It hurts, Mommy." My hands shook as I dialed 911, babbling into the phone, begging for help. Isla just stood there, chainsaw idling at her side, and said, "It was a hazard. I prevented a future accident." The audacity, she had just nearly killed my child and tried to call it prevention. The sirens came. Police, fire, ambulance, neighbors rushing out. Paramedics pried the beam off Leo officers, questioned me, and I pointed straight at her. Her. She did this. She looked right at me, knew he was up there, and she did it anyway. Isla played the victim, waving her hands, insisting she was protecting the neighborhood. But neighbors spoke up. Sam's mom shouted, "She's been harassing them for weeks." Another brought up her constant spying. Then, one quiet man handed me a USB drive security camera footage. Isla, on tape, spewing racist rants, promising to chop it down myself, show them who belongs here. That evidence changed everything. At the hospital, watching my son wheeled into surgery with both bones in his arm broken, I felt hollow. I asked myself if I'd made a mistake. Was I reckless? Did building that treehouse provoke her? But then I remembered the smirk on her face, the joy she took in my fear. No, this wasn't my fault. This was hate, and I wasn't going to let hate win. The charges came quickly: felony assault with a deadly weapon. We hired a lawyer who told us we could also sue the HOA for failing to stop her. It wasn't just Isla anymore. It was the system that let her run wild. But she fought back, spreading lies online, painting herself as a concerned old lady who'd heroically prevented a collapse. Her supporters put up signs, "We support Isla." They whispered that we were the troublemakers. The HOA tried to wash their hands, claiming ignorance. It was infuriating. I felt like we were being attacked from every side. The trial was brutal. Walking into court, seeing her sitting there in a conservative suit pretending to be harmless, it made my skin crawl. The prosecutor played the 911 call, my panicked voice echoing through the room. They showed police body cam footage, the arrest, Leo's x-rays. And then the tape. Isla's voice venomous. "I'll chop it down myself. I'll show them who belongs here." The jury's faces hardened. You could feel the shift. I testified, shaking but determined. Her lawyer tried to paint me as hysterical, overly sensitive. "Isn't it true you were angry with my client?" he asked. "Yes," I said, staring at the jury. "But I didn't take a chainsaw to her house." Tom testified, too calm and factual, showing every step we'd taken to be safe and reasonable. Isla's defense crumbled. The jury was out less than 2 hours. Guilty. Felony assault with a deadly weapon. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in prison. I watched them handcuff her right there in the courtroom, the smirk finally gone, replaced by disbelief. The HOA, seeing the verdict, scrambled to settle. They paid out enough to cover Leo's medical care, therapy, and more. Not because they cared, but because they knew they'd lose in front of a jury. That's where our story ends. With Isla, the woman who terrorized my family, who smirked as she tried to destroy us, led away in shackles. My son survived. Justice in the end was served. Hate can take root anywhere, but if you stand your ground, it won't be the one that grows.